are listening to Unscripted Moments, a podcast about propaganda. On this episode, we are discussing Hate, Myth, Muscle, Etiquette, track 3 on 1993's How to Clean Everything. How to Clean Everything was released May 31st, 1993, meaning that this record is now 30 years old by the time a lot of folks may hear this episode. The song is also included in the demo form as track 17 on the 2013 How to Clean Everything reissue. So, Greg, it's been a while since we've recorded an episode.
Mm-hmm.
What's happening?
So much has been happening. We are in the 9th winter here in Buffalo this year, it feels like. It feels like it's never going to end at this point. But winter here in town, and I've been going to a ton of shows, though, lately. I've had a delightful couple of weeks, actually. I went to see Hadestown, the musical, which was remarkable. If anybody ever gets a chance to see that show, I strongly recommend it. It kind of ties in like New Orleans jazz music with, stories and plots from Greek mythology. And some of the music in there was so unbelievably beautiful that I had like a physical reaction in the crowd sitting there watching the show. Like every hair on like my neck and arms stood up during some of the music during that show. So Hadestown.
That's awesome.
Strongly recommend. Loved it. Let's see what else. I was at the show for the band Can't Swim, a band I really like. I saw them here in Buffalo a little over about a week ago, I guess. They had a new album come out, and I was actually there. They played a show here in Buffalo with Free Throw the day the record came out. So I was at kind of like their album release party, which was great. So Can't Swim, really good band if anybody's never heard them. And I'm trying to think of what else. Oh, I went to Toronto the other day and I saw Muse and Evanescence. So that was pretty cool to go see an arena show in what I have dubbed the House of Matt Sundin. So I went to the Maple Leafs Arena up there in Toronto at Scotiabank and saw Muse, and it was a really, really good time. How about yourself?
I mean, you drove right by me, and
I did,
and just kept driving.
Kept going, blasted past you. We were going 80 the whole way, miles per hour, not kilometers an hour. That'd be a nice little slow drive past your house. But yeah, it's been a busy couple of weeks, but very exciting.
Yeah, it's on my end. I've only been to one show recently. Last week, I saw Vanessa Carlton.
Oh, nice. Wait, didn't you see Gel recently too?
Wait, that was recently. I guess that was since it's been that long since we recorded an episode. But yeah, I saw Gel like about a month ago at this point almost. And I saw Vanessa Carlton last week, who I'm a Vanessa Carlton super fan.
Amazing.
It was unbelievable.
Tell me more about your Vanessa Carlton fandom. I didn't even know this. So
most people only kind of know like the 1,000 Miles era of Vanessa Carlton. But she got dropped from her label, and then she's kind of been doing her own stuff for a while. And her own stuff is like really dark. It's just her songwriting is unbelievable. She's criminally underrated as a songwriter.
Amazing. Well, that's great. So you'll have to give me some Vanessa Carlton suggestions as well. But Steve, I like this because this is obviously the podcast about propaganda, but it's nice to know that that you and I aren't sitting around obsessing about only propaganda's music within the world of music, because there's so much out there. And that's one of the things that I've really struggled with the last couple of years making this podcast, is being so narrowly focused, because I had to spend so much time thinking about just these songs, that thinking about how much goes on outside of making this podcast, how much more music there is to listen to, is something that I've struggled with. And one of the things that I'm actually looking forward to someday when the show ends, because I'll be able to sort of reintegrate myself into the wider world of music consumption that I've been kind of lacking the last couple of years, if I can be honest.
We can start our next podcast of me educating you on the brilliance of Blind Guardian.
I would love to do a Blind Guardian podcast. Maybe someday we can, if we can, convert me to a Blind Guardian super fan, and then we can, delve into metal podcasting and go in the world of Blind Guardian. I feel like maybe we could pull it off. So you never know. You know what I'm saying?
I'm in.
I love it. Well, Steve, I'm excited to hear about your thoughts on this song, Hate, Myth, Muscle, Etiquette. And, you mentioned the demos in the intro a few minutes ago, and The demos, if you go back and listen to our Fuck Machine, Middle Finger Response, and This Might Be Satire episodes way down in the catalog, and go back and listen to our Leg Hold Trap episode with Conrad Sichler, Conrad recorded the demos on the 2013 How to Clean Everything reissue in 1992, and we interviewed him about that recording session. So Conrad is the person who did that Hate Myth Muscle Etiquette demo on the reissue from 2013. So definitely don't forget about that. We did some seriously important history for the band. But this song, Hate Myth Muscle Etiquette, is one of my favorite songs. It's top 3 How to Clean Everything song for me. And I found that it was 13th on the top songs in their Apple Music listing. So that was pretty cool. But, last time we did Who Will Help Me Bake This Bread, which I said is a top 4 How to Clean Everything song. This is another for me. This is a top 3. And I was thinking when I first heard this song, it would have been when I stole the CD from the guy in May of 98. But this one stands out clearly to me listening to it from like when I got home. And I actually had flashbacks while listening to this song over and over, because when I used to listen to music in my basement bedroom in Fenton, Missouri, when I was growing up, I had this little boombox with a Theologian Records sticker on the front of it and a High Standard sticker on the front of it. And this one really stands out to me from hearing that palm muted riff interspersed with those beautiful melodic notes. Like when I picture me at 15 listening to Propaganda, it's honestly this song and Anti-Manifesto. And I'm curious about if you have a memory attached to this song that you just can't get out of your head.
I don't have a specific memory about this song. However, I am very confident that I can tell you that this is my favorite song on the record.
Ooh, good. Okay, great. I'm glad we're starting on such a lofty situation here.
Because and it's like we talked about the record on the last time we had a conversation, and we're going to talk about this record significantly more coming up because it is the 30th anniversary. So we have some fun stuff planned for that. Anyways, it's not like I don't like the record. I like the record. But this song, I just feel like stands above the other songs.
Man, that's great. I'm so glad that we've nailed down your favorite song and that we didn't cover this one before you joined doing the podcast with me. That makes this so much more meaningful to me going into this. I'm really excited to hear why as we go through the song too. I went and as you know, over the years, Keith and I had this tendency to look up some reviews. So there's a ton of reviews out there about How to Clean Everything because of the 2013 reissue. So a lot of people revisited this record to review the new version. But I found a review from Sputnik Music that I thought was interesting. It said, like second track, Head, Chest, or Foot, and third track, Hate, Myth, Muscle, Etiquette, alike, both sharing the same subtext, get off your ass and do something about the state of the shithole we're living in. You need a good kick in the ass, oppose them, or let them destroy us. So I dug that. I also found a review on ckuw.ca where there was a 2013 interview with our Dear Coach's Corner guest, Sheldon Burney, who interviewed Chris Hanna in Winnipeg. And he asked Chris, he said, Derek Hogue mentioned on one of your Escape Velocity radio podcasts that for him, How to Clean Everything was the first time he'd heard a lot of the radical ideas before. Do you find that often? That this was an introduction to a lot of listeners to quote unquote radical ideas and ways of looking at the world. And Chris told Sheldon, quote, I guess so. I feel 2 ways about that. On one hand, I think, oh, great. As long as who they are now and what they're doing now is solid, that's cool. But knowing that in retrospect, that we didn't take that more seriously. And this is the problem with anybody who has ever done anything as a teenager and looked back to reflect on it. They certainly wouldn't want that to be the final word to their world. And those songs were written when we were teenagers, even though at its essence, there are no values on there that I'm diametrically opposed to. They're just insufficient to describe how I feel about things now. Some songs like that stick the flag up your ass song, I still get a kick out of because I don't really feel any differently. But most of the other ones are so meandering and incomplete. So there's a little bit of a thought from Chris about the record as a whole. And I had to mention Sheldon because he's such a bud of the podcast. And I met him in Winnipeg, and he has been on this podcast, and he gave me a shirt from his, Lumbercats club hockey team. So I had to give a shout out to Sheldon there.
Oh, that's awesome. I just want to touch back on on what Chris talks about in that interview for a quick second here. If these are the songs and what he was talking about when, he's a teenager, I'm like, if I think back to the band I had when I was a teenager, like I worked at Public Works, and all of us in the band worked at the Public Works city department, and our songs were about having to throw garbage bags full of garbage juice up into a truck and the garbage juice splashing in your face. Like,
yeah. I mean,
I think Chris is going to be fine.
Yeah, I have a teenage band too. The guys I was in a band with when I was 15, they wrote songs that were about Jesus. They wrote songs that were about girls, and we also had a song called Foosball because I had a foosball table in my basement where we practiced. So like we're really, worlds apart, galaxies apart with regards to what Chris is saying about the songs he wrote when he was a teenager compared to mine as well. So I totally hear you as well. It's totally different.
I'm honestly like, I mean, obviously none of us are Chris Hanna here, but like, it's embarrassing what I did.
Yeah, dude, I actually have the CD and I need to get it digitized, like with some MP3s, because then I feel like almost putting it on YouTube and posting it on the Twitter and Instagram, being like, hey, everybody, listen to my band from 24 years ago. And you'll get to hear people singing about Jesus.
I have mine literally right there behind me.
Nice. I love it. Well, I told Sheldon, friend of the podcast, so Sheldon was on Dear Coach's Corner episode. We talked a lot about hockey and the history of Don Cherry. I love that episode. And so I reached out to Sheldon. I said, hey, I found this interview you did with Chris about how to clean everything. And Sheldon replied, he said, quote, I really enjoyed that interview and the others I've done about Propagandy's early days when they didn't really know what they were doing or have any idea of the impact their songs would go on to have. Really speaks to the prairie skid in me, stuff like seeing Gretzky at the airport or whatever. And Sheldon's so spot on. You don't really think about the impact of the songs and what they would go on to do, but here we are talking about the song 30 years later. And for you and me, I mean, I know I still care a whole heck of a lot about it.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Like the amount of times I've annoyed Zoe in the last week and a half, just constantly blaring this in the living room.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of the things about being the partner of a podcaster who does a Song Exploder podcast about one band is just being punished relentlessly about this one band. So shout out to our significant others who are putting up with us being complete and raging nerds. But we do have a great guest on this episode, Steve, and I'm wondering if you had any more thoughts to kind of set the stage for us today before I bring in our wonderful guests and introduce them.
So our guest is Matt Fox from Shai Hulud.
Yes.
And I don't know if you've ever seen Shai Hulud. Have you ever seen Shai Hulud?
I have. I saw the Geert lineup one time in 2003, I believe, when they opened up for Sick of It All in St. Louis.
Oh, wow. Oddly enough, the only time I've seen them was also in 2003. It was April 5th, 2003 to be exact. So the 20-year anniversary of seeing Shai Hulud is coming up. It was on the Shadows Fall, Cephalic Carnage, Unearth, and A Perfect Murder tour.
Amazing.
So I actually had a really good camera at the show at the time, and I remember taking pictures, and the pictures I took of Shai Hulud were awesome. I have one picture in particular that's of Matt specifically from that show, of him with his guitar.
With the big Propagandy sticker on it?
I cannot find that picture anywhere. It is, I've got 23 hard drives sitting here on my desk, and it's buried in some of these hard drives, and I'm going to dig through it. If I can find it, I'm going to put it out on my Twitter so everyone can see it.
Awesome.
But when it came time to I was trying to figure out when I had seen them. So I literally sent a text message to Dave Boucher in Montreal. Anyone from Montreal knows Dave Boucher as being the man when it comes to booking shows. Everything in Montreal goes through Dave. 15 seconds. He texted me back the exact lineup of the show. 20 years ago, 15 seconds, he replied exactly what the lineup was of the show. So shout out to Dave Boucher. I have no idea how he remembers this. He puts on so many shows every year, but he's an absolute national treasure and he must be celebrated at all costs. Much like I talked about Sean Scallon in the last episode, Dave is the guy for everything in Quebec. Back to Shai Hulud. I also love their cover of Linoleum.
That's what you said. You were telling me. What do you love about that Linoleum cover?
It's just so raw and aggressive. Yeah. Like I listen to their version of Linoleum more than I listen to the NoFX version of Linoleum.
Nice. I can't even remember what vocalists they had for the Linoleum version, if it was Geert or if it was Chad. I can't remember. They've had such a wide ranging lineup of folks that have been in Shai Hulud over the years.
Yeah, I thought it was Chad, but honestly, people are probably going to say I'm wrong.
Amazing. Well, I am really excited that Matt is here. Over the years, Keith and I were trying to reach out to Matt a lot over the years, but people are hard to get in contact with, but finally it clicked. And I got in touch with Matt and he agreed to do the podcast. And I was so excited because Shai Hulud made a cover of Hate Myth Muscle Etiquette for their Just Can't Hate Enough 2015 EP. Shai Hulud has toured with Propagandhi. Matt is a huge Propagandhi fan. So on this episode and interview, we talk tour, we talk Hate Myth Muscle Etiquette, and we're going to kick it off with Shai Hulud's cover in just a moment. And then also in a 2016 career-spanning conversation that I found with Matt Fox on noecho.net, Matt said, quote, "If you follow Shai Hulud even remotely, you know we love Propagandhi. You know why we chose this song, Hate, because it was the theme of the record. But you didn't know it was one of 3 songs we were picking from, the other 2 being Wall of Hate by Killing Time and World Full of Hate by Sick of It All. We almost didn't go with Propagandhi because it required too much fucking thinking. I hate thinking and avoid it when possible. It hurts. We went with it mostly because it was out of our wheelhouse, making it more fun. So we think. So we bit the thought bullet and made it work as best we could. I think we did a pretty killer job personally. Not sure what Propagandhi thinks. Hopefully they don't hate us for it, but they very well might. We'll love them eternally regardless. Circa 2008, Stick to Your Guns asked us to accompany them on a tour. They named that tour How to Power Clean Everything. I found their singer, Jesse Barnett, and I were both massive Propagandhi fans. So when we finally committed to covering this song, he was the absolute first and only choice to ask to join in. Like always, Jesse rips. Him and Mazzali on a song together was a double fuck, was a great double fuck. I don't know what that means, but that's what it says. I think I bored myself to death with all that information you didn't need. If you haven't been bored to death yet, keep reading, only a little bit more to go. So that's the end of Matt's comment where he talks about Hate Myth Muscle Etiquette. Steve, do you know Jesse Barnett from Stick to Your Guns and that band?
I do. Not personally, but I know of him.
Cool. Yeah. Well, we're going to have to reach out to Jesse as well. I'm excited to hear maybe some more stories to go into more depth on this, but we will go into all these topics in the conversation with Matt Fox. So here is Shai Hulud's cover of Hate Myth Muscle Etiquette, followed by my conversation with Matt Fox. Steve and I will be back in just a bit.
But your point of failing begins where you can see. And the take what procrastinates dating continued to impede your path. You need a good kick in the ass. Back, you never want to walk. Wanna do the line, you didn't want to walk. You have the past, the wishes, you must have done. Now back to this, around the barrel of a gun. trap. I'm leaving to a kick in the eye. Time passed by, I realized we don't need rules to survive. Common sense it makes to success. So from here on in, I will resist. Finally realize, found my way at last. Finally evident, we all need a kick in the ass. Kick in the ass. The basis of change, educate, to run from discussion, not hate, not myth, not muscle, not etiquette, intellect, not pre-elect, status symbols yield to respect between sex, species, and environment. Fuck you. All right, let's do it again from the ass.
Matt Fox, welcome to Unscripted Moments, a podcast about propaganda.
Nice. You even say propaganda correctly.
Thank you
Unlike
very
me.
much. Yeah, well, it's kind of based on like where you grow up, I think. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I still say propaganda, despite the fact that the guys, say propaganda themselves. But I can't break out of the habit of saying propaganda.
Yeah, whenever we started doing this podcast, I had to basically retrain myself entirely. And if you listen to some of the interviews over the years, I go into propaganda mode whenever I'm talking to, like an American person from the Midwest or something who we grew up
Yeah.
saying it the same way. So I kind of like bounce back and forth just depending on who I'm talking to in the moment. But I try to always nail that intro the first time, propaganda, because if the band's saying it like that, I try to do that. But yeah, it's a good time. The pronunciation comes up all the time on the show. I love it.
Sure. I can
So-
imagine.
So Matt, I'm wondering if you can just say hey to the audience out there and introduce yourself briefly so they know kind of who you are and what you do.
Hello, audience. My name is Matt Fox. I play guitar in a band called Shai Hulud. I've been doing it for longer than I can believe.
Yes, it's amazing. My major experience with Shai Hulud was seeing you guys in St. Louis, Missouri at the Gargoyle at Washington University with opening up for Sick of It All back in the early 2000s with Geert on vocals. So that was my big standout memory of you guys was seeing you at the college down the road from my parents' house when I was like 20 years old.
Nice. That was a fun tour with Sick of It All.
Heck
And
yeah.
it was with the Distillers and Suicide Machines, no?
100%. You nailed it. And I mean, what a stacked lineup for sure.
Yeah, that was a really good lineup. A fun tour for sure.
I love it. Well, Matt, you're on a podcast that's very specifically about the Canadian band Propaganda. And I'm wondering, I know that you're a huge fan. And
Yep.
I'm wondering if you can just say a little bit about your backstory of getting into the band, finding them, becoming a fan.
Okay. Well, when their first around the time of their first album, before Let's Talk More Rock came out, I had a friend who was really into punk. I was more into metal and angrier sounding stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So he was trying to get me into a lot of the stuff that came out on Fat Records at the time. And most of it, some of it I loved. I love NoFX still to this day. I love Snuff to this day.
Yeah.
Few of those bands, but a lot of the other bands, I won't mention the ones I don't like.
Yeah, that's fine.
But he would try to get me into these bands, and I just says, it just doesn't appeal to me at all. So he said, check out Propaganda. And I looked at it. He said, yeah, you see how the vacuums are crossed? It's a straight edge band.
Mm.
So I said, okay, I've never done drugs or drank or smoked or anything. So you can call me straight edge if you want, but it's just always been me. So, but the fact that they were quote unquote a straight edge band, at least so I was told, I said, yeah, give it a listen. And I was hooked on the first song. I thought it was awesome. Absolutely awesome. Loved it the first second I heard it. Loved the whole album. And then when Less Talk came out, I was I fell even more in love. I liked that album even more. And it's kind of grown that way ever since. Whatever new album they put out, it tends to be my favorite.
Wonderful. What is your favorite Propaganda record?
Well, like I just said, it tends to be the one that came out last.
Awesome.
But I regret to say that I haven't spent enough time with Victory Lap yet.
Mm-hmm.
So my favorite is probably still Failed States. What I heard of Victory Lap was awesome. I loved it. I had a couple days where I really dug into it, and I definitely love the album, but I'm not familiar enough with it yet. So we'll say my favorite is Failed States, with an honorable mention to Today's Empires, Tomorrow's Ashes.
Wonderful. That's great. Your fandom, for anybody who's seen Shai Hulud live before, they can tell very, very quickly that you're a Propaganda fan because you have a huge Propaganda sticker on your guitar. And you can easily find those images all over the internet. I was looking at tons of pictures of you last night with Propaganda stickers on your guitar. Tell me a little bit about your guitar sticker setup.
I whether it's on a t-shirt or on my guitar, I like to put my influences out there.
Mm-hmm.
So people can just get possibly turned on to bands they hadn't heard before. So yeah, there's no rhyme or reason to my guitar. I've got everything from a peanut sticker to Propaganda. But yeah, Propaganda is such a huge influence that, I gave them a lot of real estate, and their name takes up a lot of real estate.
Yeah.
What stinks though is that the Propaganda sticker that I have is falling off in places. I'm afraid it reads like Apagand now or something. So I'm going to have to replace it soon. But yeah,
I love it.
I show my influences on my guitar. Just as prominent as Propaganda are the Descendants. Huge Descendants sticker on the guitar. I show my influences as well as my love for Superman, who's also on the guitar.
I love it. Well, as far as I know, I don't know entirely your touring history with Propaganda. It might be beyond what I've actually found for myself, but I know that Shai Hulud and War on Women did a full month of European touring with Propaganda in April of 2013. Comeback Kid also joined on those UK dates, as far as I can tell. And I would love to hear some of your favorite memories of touring with Propaganda about 10 years ago on the Failed States tour, which you mentioned is your favorite record, which is also kind of a cool thing to be on that tour for your favorite record support. But if you have any touring or show experience with them beyond that April 2013 tour, I would also love to know about that. But I'd love to hear just some standout memories of shows or traveling or exploring or anything like that involving touring, Shai Hulud, and Propaganda.
Okay. Well, the only tour we ever did is the one you mentioned.
Okay,
with
cool.
them. So, let's see. Well, the first song on Failed States, I remember I got it stuck in my head to sing the line "No chocolates" instead of I don't even remember what the real lyric is.
No Fly List.
Is it No Fly List? But
yeah.
I was we were in Germany playing a fest with Bad Religion, and I was looking for chocolate and there wasn't any. So I started singing "No Chocolates." There's no chocolates. And I remember Chris walked by me and just said, "Squeeze me."
Nice.
Yeah. So that's one memory. I have a bad memory, so let me see what else I can remember. I mean, I remember being a fanboy the whole time,
Mm,
I was definitely nervous around them. Didn't really know what to say. It's funny how you can do that to, somebody who's turning 40. I was turning 40 on that tour. In
right.
fact, I think the day after the last day of that tour, I turned 40.
Got it.
So still at 40 years old, I was, giddy.
Yeah.
Couldn't believe we were on tour with Propaganda. One of my favorite memories was sitting up usually nightly or mostly every night with Barney, their sound guy,
Hmm.
and Todd. And we would just talk music until, 5, 6 in the morning.
Yeah.
We would talk about everything from Razor to Twisted Sister to Kiss and the Killer Dwarves. So those were fun nights, always talking to Todd about the bands that we grew up with, because I think he and I are roughly the same age.
Awesome.
Yeah. What else can I tell you? I watched Propaganda almost every night. One of the highlights was, much to Todd's chagrin, I would go and scream in his microphone, and he would always tell me, "You're so fucking loud." It would go right
That's
into
amazing.
his headset.
That is awesome. So
So,
did you like go out and do any like vocals with them, like to like how bands sometimes when they're on tour together they kind of like come out at the end of the set and did you guys do stuff like that?
yeah, that's what I'm referring to. Me and one of the ladies in War on Women would always go and sing a couple. I can't even remember what songs. I think Back to the Motor League.
Nice.
But yeah, we would go out and just do little bits of vocals here and there. And I remember, you know what? I can't even remember if it was Todd or Chris, but one of them said, "Go use the other mic. You're way too loud."
Nice.
So it was really a blast. I mean, it was a dream come true. You know, Shai Hulud is a small band. We've been around a long time, so that tricks people into thinking that we're a bigger band, but we're not. But we've been lucky to tour with a lot of our heroes. Sick of It All. We did an Australian tour that Metallica headlined.
Oh
Of
yes.
course, they had no idea that we existed, but we were on the same tour anyway. And then Propaganda Gandhi,
Yeah.
Celtic Frost. So yeah, so that was a huge deal for us. I watched them every night, was blown away, was thrilled when I saw one of them watching us, was
Yeah.
a nice treat, felt validating. But yeah, I'm sorry. Oh, well, the only other memory I have is them playing a lot of fart jokes on each other.
I love it.
Yeah, there was definitely some fart jokes present. But yeah, the tour for me was really a dream come true. I think around the time I had said, now if we could just get Queen back together, with Freddie, I'll take any incarnation of Queen actually, but
Yeah.
then we'd be all set. So pretty cool to have toured with one of your favorite bands,
Man, that is
and especially for having been a favorite band for so long.
oh for
Since
sure.
yeah, since How to Clean Everything came out.
Yeah, that's one of those moments where it's like meaning of life stuff, you know what I mean? Where it's like you look back on your entire life and it's like, man, that's one of those really amazing things where like I've done okay for myself, haven't I?
Well, financially, I don't know about, but as far as personal dreams and such like that, yeah, absolutely.
Awesome.
I don't have room in my small apartment, but I did snag one of the huge Propaganda Shai Hulud War on Women posters that one day I will proudly display. It's definitely one of my proudest moments to have been on tour with those guys. And I don't know if they would call me friend, but to call them friend,
Yeah.
in my book, they would be considered friends for sure.
Yeah. Well, so you did the 2013 tour with Propaganda, and
Yeah.
so let's talk about the Just Can't Hate Enough EP that comes out 2 years later, so 2015.
Sure.
There are some new originals by Shai Hulud on that record and some covers on the record. And I'm wondering if you can tell me a little bit about how that process started to come together for this fairly unusual and interesting release for your band.
Yeah. Well, I love the two bands that we covered, Chorus of Disapproval and Sheer Terror. Have loved those two bands for a long time. And, one day it just dawned on me, they've got two great songs. Each band has a song called Just Can't Hate Enough. So, Shai Hulud's whole theme is profound hatred, if you will.
Yeah.
And one day I remember just sitting around in my room, and I told our bass player at the time, still a good friend of mine, Matt Fletcher, I said, what do you think about doing a release of hardcore punk covers and calling it what we called it, which is Just Can't Hate Enough ×2 plus other hate songs. And he loved the idea. I love the idea. So it started there, with we'll do two songs from two different bands called Just Can't Hate Enough, and we'll do other hate songs with hate in the title. So I remember, I had some ideas for the originals, but for the covers, I the one I knew off the top of my head was we were going to do Blaze Some Hate by Excel, a song that I've wanted to cover ever since I was probably like 15 or 16 years old. So we got that out of the way. But then I went to my computer when I used to house all of my music collection on a computer, and I typed into the search hate. And I can't remember how many things came up, but 3 songs populated that I was 3 songs populated that I know that I would do. And that was Wall of Hate by Killing Time, World Full of Hate by Sick of It All, and Hate, Myth, Muscle, Etiquette by Propaganda. And I thought, wow, Hate, Myth, Muscle, Etiquette would be really great, just because it's such a cool song. And it's kind of like what we did with Linoleum probably 10 years before that, where people didn't really know that we liked that kind of punk.
Sure.
I think at this point, when we were doing the record, having, professed our love for Propaganda over the years, people already knew that we loved Propaganda, but I still thought that was like out of our safety box. So I wanted to try that, but I was half convinced that we were just going to go with Sick of It All only because it was easier. I wouldn't have to change much. I really wouldn't have to make it our own, because their song is similar enough to what we play, just generally speaking. Whereas Hate Myth is not really at all the style that we play. But I spent like a couple days with it, came up with some ideas to, change to keep what they wrote, to keep all the key melodies, but played on the guitar rather done by the vocals. And I was able to keep some of the important parts of their song and also add my own flourishes to it. I listened back to it just the other day when we decided that we were going to do this podcast.
Yeah.
And when I first listened to it, I didn't even recognize the song. It's easy when at least when I'm covering a song, I get it so into my head that I can make changes that really don't sound like the original and think that it's spot on. Because I remember when we finished the song, I thought, this is a pretty, we definitely added our own things to it, but this is a pretty faithful cover. And like I said the other day, I listened to it, and as soon as it came in, I'm like, what the hell is this? So yeah, I don't know what they thought of it. I sent it to Todd, never got a response.
Oh, weird. Really? I'm surprised he didn't.
To the best of my knowledge, I sent him our cover of Sheer Terror that had Shauna from War on Women on it, and he responded to that. But did he respond to the Propaganda cover? I really don't remember. I'd have to check. This is quite a few years ago. But yeah, I would love to send them copies if if they would want one. I don't know if they would.
Amazing. I mean, so something that's really interesting about this record too is the varying range of vocalists. Like, tell me a little bit about that too, because that's a really unique characteristic of this record.
Oh, sure. Well, it's essentially a fun release. Our albums tend to be, very serious minded, and the songs are all serious. But overall, it was a fun release. And I just wanted to have a bunch of friends on it. We're doing cover songs. We've got short, fast songs of originals that we were doing. So in interest of keeping it just a really good time record, we wanted to get a bunch of our pals on there. I thought it would be awesome to have Shauna lead off the song Just Can't Hate Enough. We actually got the singer of Chorus of Disapproval to sing on his song, Just Can't Hate Enough, which was great. Jesse from Stick to Your Guns, his band and our band did a tour together. I think it was called the How to Clean Everything Tour.
Amazing.
Or it was based on that. And so was the artwork for the tour. So he's a huge Propaganda fan. And when it was confirmed that we were going to do Hate Myth Muscle Etiquette, he was the first person I thought of. I said, I got to get Jesse on here. Not only does he love Propaganda, but he also has an incredible voice. So who else was there? Another Propaganda fan. We got Goose from Comeback Kid on one of the originals.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was just a blast to get all of our friends, or as many friends as we could muster, to help us have fun with this release.
Yeah, I was really surprised that Andrew from Comeback Kid didn't also do the Propaganda cover as well, because he's a Winnipeg guy and he's a huge Propaganda fan himself. So I was like, oh, interesting that Andrew's on this record, but he's not on the Propaganda song. It was really pretty an interesting choice. I liked it.
Yeah, well, again, the reason for that is because I also had a personal history with Andrew. We would, when we toured, not on the Propaganda tour, but before that, when we toured Europe with Comeback Kid, me, him, and some of the other guys would stay up all night singing Propaganda songs together.
Amazing.
But I gotta say, the first person that came to mind was Jesse from Stick to Your Guns, because we did a whole Propaganda themed tour.
Amazing, dude. And I actually just looked that up. I'm on Lambgoat right now, and there's a February 6th, 2009 article called Stick to Your Guns Shai Hulud Tour. And it was the How to Power Clean Everything tour.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
In March of 2009, starting in Victorville, California, and concluding 20 days later in San Antonio, Texas. So the other lineup was In Fear and Faith and Stray from the Path. So that's the whole entire lineup for the tour right there.
Yep. How to Power Clean Everything. That was it.
Dude.
So yeah, the fact that we had a Propaganda themed tour together, he was the first person that came to mind. Not the other vocalist that lives in Winnipeg, but
dude, that's amazing. I have to see if I can find some artwork from that Shai Hulud Stick to Your Guns tour now. I want to see how you guys adapted the How to Clean Everything artwork and the How to Power Clean Everything up. Was there a poster and everything?
There was artwork. I don't recall a poster necessarily, but there was artwork to accompany the title of the tour. Whether or not you'll be able to find it on the internet, I don't know.
We'll see. I will do my very, very best. I promise. So what was interesting or memorable or challenging about the recording process for this particular cover? Does anything, stand out and spring to mind at all?
Yeah, the most difficult thing was trying to make some of it work in like a Shai Hulud context.
Mm-hmm.
Like the beginning that I said when I listened to it recently, I didn't even recognize it as a Propaganda song. That's a very Shai Hulud thing to do. So I remember working out the beginning. It was, I found it very challenging to try to keep what Propaganda had originally. You know, I used their chords, of course, but I changed up the rhythm to make it more Shai Hulud. And I remember the beginning in particular being quite challenging. The other parts of the song flowed a lot easier than I'd expected. We added melodies to some of their parts that didn't have melody, and those melodies came quite quickly, which is kind of rare for me. Usually takes me a while to write, but we were in the studio when a couple of those melodies just came out, and everybody in the studio with us, we all said, "Hey, that's great." You hear Propaganda stuff in the background, and you definitely hear Shai Hulud on top of it.
Yeah.
So yeah, the only parts that I would say were tricky was the beginning, and when the beginning repeats somewhere in the middle. Those were challenging to come up with something that, just to repeat myself, that would also honor Propaganda, but also remind the audience that you're listening to Shai Hulud.
Yeah.
Another part where we didn't really know what to do is I think it's the third verse, where there's some guy talking. That guy is me. We didn't know what to do because I think we tried doing it with our vocals just screaming again.
Yeah.
But I think we were getting scream fatigue, especially since the song, originally doesn't have any screaming. So we opted to have him speak it to see how that came out. I think he gave it a couple tries. He didn't like how he was doing it. And either he or I said, "Hey, let me try." And I went ahead and did it. Nobody hated it, so we kept that. But that was, we spent a little time on that. We didn't know exactly what we were going to do on that last verse.
Yeah, it's really good. And then there's also the wrap your lips around the barrel of the gun, which is spoken as well in the song that I was listening to it earlier.
I'm sorry to interrupt. That's both Jesse and Matt Mazzali, our singer at the time.
Excellent. Okay, cool. I was reading the lyrics earlier today as well, and I personally love how the title of the song and the usage of those title in the lyrics is basically the opposite, right? So the song is called Hate, Myth, Muscle, Etiquette, but the song at the end condemns each of those as, how we should focus on discussion and education, not hate, not myth, not muscle, not etiquette. So I love how the title and the usage of the lyrics are kind of like the opposite. So it's just a little interesting lyrical hook. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, well, it's a Propaganda podcast.
Yeah.
So everybody listening knows how smart and clever those guys are, all of them.
Yeah.
Lyrically they're untouched.
I love
on that song, and from there to current. I feel like I have to have an encyclopedia and a thesaurus next to me just to even begin to read any of their lyrics.
Man, I love it. Well, this is such a cool release, Matt. And, something else that I noticed that you and Chris and everybody in the band have in common is your love of Voivod. So I'm wondering if you can just give me some Voivod love here real quick, just to kind of bring it all full circle, because I know those guys are also mutual fans.
Yeah, I became, it's funny the way I heard Voivod. I may have told the guys this story, but the way I heard of the band was my friend had a box of tapes. This is when we were maybe 14 or so. Could have been a little younger, 13 possibly. Could have been a little older. Could have been 15. But I was hanging out I played in a metal band back then. I played drums in a metal band. We were called Unwillful Demise. And I was at our bass player's house in his room, and he had a box of tapes that was out of reach. And I said, "What's in those? What's in that box?" And he said, "Oh, that's the stuff that sucks." And I said, "Can I see it?" Because I knew that I mean, I don't know how extreme you could go at 13, but I knew that I liked more extreme stuff than he did. So I thought that maybe there would be a gem in there that I would find. So I don't remember anything else that was in that cassette box except for Voivod Roar.
Nice.
And I said to him, "Can I borrow this?" Asked me if I liked Voivod, which I had never heard of them at that point. So I said no, but it looks cool. It's got a big like metal tank on the front, with a science fiction character like driving it. So I borrowed that and became a Voivod fan. But the album that really solidified my love for Voivod was an album a couple releases later called Dimension Hatros.
Yep. Amazing.
Yeah. Are you a fan?
Oh, yeah. Well, you want to know something funny? I actually own Chris Hanna's personal copy of Dimension Hatros. When he sold all of his vinyl about a year and a half ago, I actually bought that record from him directly. And it's the only one I bought, and I bought that exact record. So yes. And I actually have Chris's copy from when he was like a kid.
Funny. That's a nice find.
I know, man.
I'm surprised he got rid of that.
He got rid of all of the vinyl. He sold them through a local shop in Winnipeg and kind of unloaded his entire collection.
Yeah, I saw a couple of videos online when he was doing that.
Yeah.
But despite the fact that he was selling all his vinyl, I'm still surprised he got rid of that.
I know, and and that's the one I got. So I love the fact that you bring up that exact record, and that's the exact record that I've got, which just shows you the power and the recurrence of that record in music fans' lives. I love it.
Yeah, well, when that album came out, I had already heard Roar. I don't think I'd heard Killing Technology yet. Killing Technology came a little later. But as soon as I saw Dimension Hatros in the record store, I bought it. And though I liked Roar, I loved Dimension Hatros. I said, this is awesome. And that's the record that, like I said, really solidified my love for Voivod. And then I've loved or at least liked everything ever since. My favorite record by Voivod is the one after Dimension Hatros, Nothing Face.
Mm-hmm.
That's probably my all-time favorite, the record that impacted me the most. In fact, I remember, I'm sure I told Propaganda this story, but I remember one day we were, some of my friends and I, when, again, around the time I was an early teen, we were traveling around and we were listening to the album Nothing Face. Then the chorus for the song Nothing Face came on, which is a really slow melodic chorus. And I remember telling my friends, I said, I would mosh so hard to this part. So yeah, I'm as I'm sitting here on my couch, I'm looking at a signed Voivod Outer Limits poster hanging on my wall.
Nice.
Yeah. So, and I have Nothing Face, the vinyl framed hanging on the wall as well. So yeah, needless to say, I'm a big fan. I don't know if I gave you the Voivod love.
Oh, you did.
I could probably go on and on.
Well, whenever I was looking at pictures of you with your guitar yesterday, I saw several pictures of you in a Voivod t-shirt on stage with your guitar, with your massive Propaganda sticker on. And I was like, man, I got to ask him about Voivod too. There's no way to get around this because that's one of Propaganda's biggest influences, pretty much band wide. So, I had to go there.
Yeah. Hey, I'm always happy to talk about Voivod. I don't know if you know this, but of course you're hosting a Propaganda podcast.
Yeah.
So I'm sure you know.
I'm here for all the stories, man. This is an oral history project. You tell me.
I'm sure you know, but Chris released like a solo outing recently.
Yeah.
Yeah. If you're not aware, the first song on that release is Panorama by Voivod from their album Angel Rat.
And it's so good too. He did such a great job on that entire release.
Yeah, I killed it.
I love it. Well, Matt, I I'm really pumped that you were willing to do this. Come on and hang out and chat about Shai Hulud's cover of Hate, Myth, Muscle, Etiquette from How to Clean Everything. It's fabulous to have your voice and stories represented on the show and to also share some tour memories too. I love when guests have actually been in bands that are on tour with Propaganda, so they can like kind of recount some of those memories. It means a whole heck of a lot to get the story out there, at least to me, because I'm obsessive. And so I'm wondering if you can tell listeners out there where they can find you, if they want to like give you a follow on social media or follow what you're up to.
Sure. I tend to only post on Instagram, but that said, Shai Hulud also has a Facebook page that all my posts from Instagram populate to both Facebook and Twitter from Instagram. So on Instagram, you can find us, I believe, at Shai Hulud _unincorporated.
I'm looking at it right now. That's what it is.
Okay, and if you just search Shai Hulud on Facebook, you'll find us. I can't remember what the tag is at the end of the URL. And we were lucky enough on Twitter just to get Shai Hulud.
Amazing.
SHAIHULUD. So that's
fantastic.
That's where you find us.
All right. Any plans in the works for the band?
Slowly but surely, we're writing some stuff. I'm not sure if we're going to end up doing a 7-inch or a 12 or a full-length album, but me and a couple of the guys have some riffs that we've been throwing about, and we'll see if we can't make that into a full release at some point.
I love
but
it. Well,
as people who follow Shai Hulud are pretty well aware, we've never been a prolific band. We're not the kind of band that releases an album every year or even 2 years. I think it's been a long. Well, our last release was the Just Can't Hate Enough EP, and that's been quite some time has passed since that already. So as far as the timeline, who's to say? All I can tell people is that we are working on stuff, and I wouldn't hold your breath, but stay tuned.
I love it. Well, I love the fact that your band isn't prolific because Propaganda is also not a prolific band. And there's a lot of benefit to that because, when time passes in people's lives, you're in different places in your lives. It leads to more inspiration for treading new ground musically instead of cranking out the same thing over and over. So I personally applaud your approach. So that's just me,
Hey, well, thanks. So hopefully other people see it that way too.
I love it. Well, Matt Fox, Shai Hulud, thank you so much for joining me on the podcast to nerd out about Propaganda and all other things. It's been a real pleasure.
Okay. Iron Gang lives.
The gun.
Okay. Thank you so much to Matt Fox from Shai Hulud for that great chat. Many times in the conversation now, we were talking about a photograph of Matt's guitar and the way that he kind of like broadcast Propaganda live at their shows. So if you search for images of Matt Fox online, you will definitely find his giant Propaganda sticker taking up a lot of real estate on his guitar. So it's great to have Matt on the show. So Steve, let's get on to the song. What do you say?
Let's do it.
All right, let's start with guitar. Steve, I'm curious about your guitar breakdown here on these on this tune. I love the guitar in this one, and I wonder about your journey of going through and plucking away on this one a little bit with the riffs.
So this song is actually one of the more simple Propaganda songs, guitar-wise. But I think that also correlates to why I like it on the record, because it's just it's effective. Everything is done with intent, and it's not overdone. Like
Amazing.
the main riff, when I was noodling away with that a few weeks ago when we first started to plan this episode, and I sent you what I had. It only took a few minutes to really get it down and everything, but it's a super fun riff to play. Simple. Yeah.
Amazing. I like, the palm muted guitar part is the thing that made my friends and I fall in love with the band. So it's just a and then there's the part where they have the palm muting and then the notes plug that transition and then it goes back into the palm muting part.
Yeah.
And to an 8th grader and a 9th grader hearing that's kind of like the thing that made my friend transcend to the next level of guitar playing. The guy that I was playing in a band with, like as soon as he started hearing that kind of stuff on this record and like Dude Ranch, he just kind of went to a new level guitar wise because he kind of realized the way that you can tie riffs together with like little transition sections so that it's not all just like strumming. You know what I'm saying? Like how this kind of like would help a burgeoning punk rock guitarist, move to a new level from hearing examples like this.
So he was just playing faster songs about Jesus?
Basically, yeah. He wasn't the one writing the lyrics about Jesus, though. It wasn't the guitar player, but yeah, it was kind of like that where we were all just trying to play in a really fast band and we're trying to have really melodic songs, and hearing examples like this were extremely important with regards to our own band.
It's almost like this, where it sits on the record, it's like the first kind of entry level into like the future thrashy era of Propaganda. And
Yeah.
that's why, because like I'm a big metal guy. I think that's also why I love this song so much, because it's such a good riff.
Yeah. Yeah. And I watched the Clem Last Note playthrough video on YouTube, and these are video playthroughs that I watch for nearly every time we make a new episode of the show. I go and I watch these like zoomed in close-ups of people playing these songs on guitar. And on a comment on Clem's page, somebody wrote, "Nailed it as always. Not the most challenging Propaganda song, but I love the riff after the verses and at the end of the song." And Clem replied, "Thanks, you're right. Not the hardest Propaganda song, but one of my favorites from the album." So we've got this song that you and the guitar oriented folks online are saying that this is not that hard. This is the kind of thing that like people can learn how to do if you're sort of a burgeoning or, lightweight guitarist. But the effectiveness of it, because of the simplicity, is kind of where the magic happens,
Absolutely. It's, like if you think of like the good songs over time, like the really quality songs, most of them aren't really hard to play.
Yeah.
Like no one is listening. Apologies if there are any fans out there, but no one hears like, man, that Dream Theater song was awesome.
Yeah, exactly. There's a reason why legendary songs are the ones that get stuck in our heads. And so this is a good example of that. Did anything jump out at you about the bass? I have nothing written down as far as the bass performance goes.
Honestly, I feel so bad every time we talk about a song and we bring up the bass. I feel like we're trying to talk about like the bass on "Injustice for All." Like it's not in my head. I'm sorry.
Totally fine. This is we're gonna do Fadala's Hearse sometime in the not too distant future, and that is a song where the bass is so important to me. So this is not really in that realm yet, but I dug into a little bit on the drums on this one, and for me personally, this kind of song is super important and influential for me on the drums. I was trying to emulate these fills and this style of playing so much in 1998. And the way Jord comes in after "mark your point of failing" is so cool. And I always think back on my interview with JP Peters from the Negretto episode. JP was the engineer for Victory Lap and Failed States. And in that episode, JP said that Jord does not recycle his fills. So many drummers would come in after "Mark Your Point of Failing" the exact same way. And that kind of entry into a song, and where does this fill occur anywhere else in Propaganda's catalog? This fill that comes in after Chris sings "Mark Your Point of Failing," as far as I can tell, this fill does not appear in this identical way at all in any other Propaganda song. I could be wrong, but it's pretty unique, and it's the kind of thing that makes certain bands stand out over others. So I really like that there is a fantastically original fill to bring the drums and the full speed of this song into the song. And the second "Mark My Point of Failing" fill reentry is a far more standardized fill that I've heard a lot of drummers do. And I love that both are different on that line in this song, and that it's not the same both times. So Jord comes into the song in two spots on this song. The first fill is super original sounding to my ears, and the second one is far more generic. So the second one is how I feel like so many drummers would come in, but the first one and the second one just shows that the first fill to me is so cool because he comes in a more generic way on the second time. So that's kind of what's really standing out to me about Jord's performance on this tune, is just those differences in fills and how interesting it is to compare them.
I wonder what the thought process was behind putting the more original complex one first and the standard one second, rather than flipping them.
I'm sure there wasn't. I'm sure it was not even potentially a blip in their minds. And I'm not really, I mean, obviously I wouldn't know that for sure because I wasn't there, but I love the fact that it's got this really cool, unique fill the first time in. And then the second time he comes in, it's like, it's just way more normal compared to the first fill. And I personally love that both versions are on this song because it just shows you how unique that first fill is compared to the second one.
Oh, it's awesome.
I love it. So as far as vocals go, this is a super amazing song, and it's so special to me because it's almost a duet between Jord and Chris. And I commented to Chris on Twitter recently about what was his favorite Jord backing vocal on any of their records. And Chris, he actually replied, he said, "Name and address withheld, maybe." So to me, it's like that's Chris's favorite, but this is unbeatable stuff right here to me. The duet quality between Jord and Chris is absolutely wonderful. So what are your thoughts on the Jord Chris duet?
I love it. I think I'm gonna say some disparaging things about another band right now. I think the Jord Chris duet on this song is how Fat Mike and Eric should have been doing the NoFX ones for the latter part of that NoFX career.
Amazing. That's actually a really great idea. I mean, they've got that song 6 Years on Dope, which is like both guys, I think, for NoFX on that. I think it was on First Ditch Effort, a fairly recent LP. But Eric Melvin really kind of came into his own in the last 10 years or so on NoFX records for vocals. So I was pretty happy to see that. And I actually kind of like that comparison.
Yeah, I think Jord and Chris nailed the song. Again, it's my favorite song on the record.
I love it. Let's go into these lyrics a little bit. So we got the first line: "Mark your point of failing. It begins where you concede." This speaks so much to self-awareness and the ability to recognize one's flaws or shortcomings or past mistakes or tendencies towards narcissism even. Knowing a bit about, Chris's penchant for self-critique, I read this as a note to Chris about himself, which is, I feel like a lot of his songs are him writing with the intention of reading these like words to himself in the mirror so that he is the intended audience of these lines. So that's kind of where I see this line coming from. What do you think?
Super relatable line, because if I started listing out my past mistakes, I would be like Jericho listing out in the ring when he was listing out he's the man of 1,004 holds.
Yeah.
If you haven't seen that YouTube clip, just check it out. Hilarious. But like we all have this giant list of things where we make mistakes.
Mm-hmm.
And
Absolutely.
like instead of looking at them as like, bad things, like obviously we have to try and look at them as learning opportunities.
Mm-hmm. They're benchmarks. Yeah, they're benchmarks of experience where you can actually learn something from them. So when something bad happens, you can pay attention to it and learn from it, or you can just keep doing the same thing over and over again.
Which some of us do.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. Like if everybody out there takes a moment to pause right now, think about your worst bad habit. Okay. You got it. What is an action that you can take starting tomorrow to begin to alter your own worst bad habit? And so it's like the ability to like recognize those bad habits in and of ourselves is just step one of 1,000. There's like 1,000 steps. So that's that first line, mark your point of failing. And you can do it for every single thing that you have a bad habit with relation to. So it's a really challenging thing because there's a lot of work that goes into marking our own points of failing.
It's a full-time job.
Absolutely. And if you're like me with multiple jobs, there's not a lot of real estate in the old brain these days to live a super ultra reflective life because so much of my brain feels full all of the time. So it's one of those things to where it's a good goal, and a lot of us tend to push it off until next year, or someday, you know what I mean, where we fall onto the old crutch of someday, maybe.
It's called future Greg's problem.
It is. It's present Greg is here having a really good time with Steve. So this is just the way it goes. But then we've got this next line. Hesitate. Oh my gosh, this is like exactly what I was just saying. Maybe I was like subconsciously thinking about this line the entire time when I was just making that last comment. Hesitate, procrastinate, sedating, all configured to impede your path. You need a good kick in the ass. So, like I was saying, I do hesitate to make changes that I know I should make. Like, I procrastinate doing something better today that I instead say I will make better tomorrow. I sedate myself by saying, what's this beer or TV or doom scrolling going on? What's it going to hurt just this one more time? Like the ways we fall into complacency is pretty profound for nearly all of us. And it's amazing how poignant this line is too, considering it comes from an era that is pre-internet, pre-smartphone, pre-social media. Isn't it amazing the futuristic tendency of this line about the sedating aspect? I mean,
it's crazy. Like, first of all, again, we'd already touched on it, but like they were teenagers when we wrote this. Like,
yeah,
come on. Not like, and before the internet, like, was he talking about crossword puzzles?
Like TV, like 5 channels, like 25 channels with cable, you know?
Crazy. And like, I think every single one of us can relate to this line and immediately feel tremendous guilt after realizing all of our unproductive habits.
Yeah.
Like the sheer amount of time I spend consuming wrestling content or watching ex-Japan videos on YouTube is staggering.
Yeah.
Would I have a PhD if I weren't doing either of those things? Probably not. But I'd probably be in way better shape. Who knows? Definitely not me, because I definitely do those things.
Dude, I read Buffalo Reddit like 2 hours a day. Like it's unbelievable how much like I read the drama of my local, Reddit scene and just like be like, oh, look, I just lost 2 hours of my life for the 17th day in a row. Wow. And then you just fall down the spiral of like how much you hate yourself for wasting so much time. And then you just keep going because you're like totally wrapped up in like a spiral of hatred. So you just keep doing the thing that you know you shouldn't be doing because you're too depressed to get out of it.
Someone's got to keep up with the hot gossip, the Walden Galleria.
Dude, I definitely agree. Walden Galleria is a place. Everybody out there should Google Walden Galleria because it makes the news once a week here in Buffalo for some crazy stuff over there. It's a good time. I was actually there yesterday. I went to Dave and Buster's, and my kiddo went to a couple of birthday parties, both at the mall yesterday.
Oh, that's fun.
So I was just there. Hilarious. Okay, so we've got this next line. Now take a step back and have a long, hard look. No, please, God, don't make me do that. Hold it to the light and read it like a book. Oh, the backing vocal on this line. hold it to the light, read it like a book. Impeccable. Jord. Oh, I just love it so much. And this line is about self-analysis to me and taking stock of what you've done, where you are, and where you'd like to go. Read it like the plot in a novel. Okay. It's like taking an inventory of what's going great, what's holding you back, and seeing what is within your power to change and what is not within your power to change. So I like the idea of reading it like a book, like a novel, like the story in a novel, because for me, I personally, that's my favorite thing about reading novels is the ability to live multiple lives within one lifetime. You know what I'm saying? If you read a novel about many different people's lives, like novels upon novels upon novels, they're life stories that by reading that story, you essentially get to live it, right? A little bit. And so that is what's so cool to me about this line is it kind of asks us to analyze our own lives like we would if we were in an English class and we were being asked to discuss what are the major lessons and morals and themes of works of literature. So that's what I really like about this line. It kind of reminds me of my English teacher days.
I mean, I was horrific at English in school. I don't even want to go there, but like the part that gets me in terms of this line, in terms of taking stock, that I'm a chronic stressor. I stress about everything, mostly things that I can't control, which is such an inefficient use of energy and time, but I don't know how to stop.
Yeah.
So it's terrifying.
Yeah. Yeah. And I was thinking about, the things going on in your life and stuff like that. And I was just like, oh my gosh, there's all kinds of stuff going on. Steve's life's busy. And I was like, oh my gosh, my life's busy too. And it leads to this, the compounded stress of life. And then when you have something happen on top of your normal day-to-day routine that must be dealt with immediately, it just goes to show like how paralyzing emergencies can become for people in general.
Oh, like I could not tell you the last time I slept more than 3.5 hours in a night. It's been well over 3.5 weeks at this point.
Oh my God. I'm hoping that is able to be reversed for you in the very near future. Okay, so we've got another quasi duetted line here that I really love. Analyze the past and present to see what is to come. Now wrap your lips around the barrel of the gun. Okay, so the gun line here. What do you think about this gun line? I want to know your thoughts on this first.
Honestly, I'm okay with it. I think it works. I think it adds it makes it more kind of urgent. It adds it's like an exclamation point at the end of the line, basically.
Yeah, I mean, this line is super fascinating. Chris's intrigue with suicide comes up throughout their career, like Letters to a Young Anus, where he talks about loaning somebody the final draft to a suicide note. So this is like not absent from elsewhere in their catalog. So like, is he saying he knows what he needs to do and he knows he won't get there? So why bother? Just kill myself instead? Like, you know what I mean? Like if you're thinking about all of your own mistakes and all of your own imperfections, knowing that you cannot achieve what you feel is necessary, is it better to just like off yourself instead? Like that's kind of like a question that I almost feel like this line is asking.
It kind of like it's a reoccurring theme. We kind of talked about it last time. It's about like the sheer weight of life and just the sheer weight of having goals. And then life getting in the way of those goals, and then making you feel even worse about not completing those goals.
Yeah.
It's heavy.
Yeah, it really is. Think about writing this when you're like 18 or 19 years old. Oof. And he's saying maybe he knows the vast majority of people won't be able to accomplish what he wants them to accomplish. So maybe he's also encouraging them to kill themselves. Do you know what I mean? Like, I know you as like a huge block of people cannot accomplish what I would like for you to accomplish. So maybe you guys should just kill yourselves. Like, it's like my mind went in so many directions on this line. It was really wild.
Yeah, but I think that's what makes it an effective line, because we don't actually know, and however we see what direction we want to take it kind of takes the song where we think the song should go.
It's very mysterious, and that is really, really cool. And I wonder how many people out there listening have actually thought about who is the intended recipient of the gun in the mouth actually supposed to be? Because I spent way too much time thinking about this exact question. Who is the intended recipient of this gun?
I mean, definitely let us know who you think it is if you're listening.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's really, really wild. But yeah, I love the duetted vocal approach, again, from Chris and Jord here. So this next one, I've got something funny that I thought about this one. So he says, Mark, so now it comes back in, mark my point of failing. So we return to sort of the beginning lyrics of the song. It began where I gave in. So it's hearkening back to the original line of the song. Comfort, convenience, placating, construed to suck me into their trap. I need a good kick in the ass. So now he's turning the mirror on himself. But he really pronounces the word suck, which I really loved. I was just like getting way too much of a kick out of the fact that he overly pronounces the word suck.
And it's hilarious, because this is the album we talked about last time of almost like that over singing on the forced kind of over enunciation. And so for him to really, with the album already at that level, and for him to one up it for the word suck.
Yeah.
Even better.
Oh, I was listening. I was listening earlier. I was like, wow, he really goes for it on the word suck. So I really just wanted to emphasize the fact that I got a really big kick out of that line.
That's awesome.
I love it. So there's a lot of different directions this passage could go as well. It asks us all to recognize how our personal shortcomings happen every day, and how every day is a choice to continue the shortcomings versus making the hard work to actually change. So here you have to recognize the ways that we as humans have leaned on stuff like creation stories, religious rites, myths, and otherwise bury our heads in the sand to inconvenient truths in the world that don't gel with our own personal comforts. So think of all the ways that we benefit from this. Ordering from Amazon, buying from Walmart, saying someday you'll use more environmentally friendly sources of transportation. Someday you'll commute on your bike more. Someday you'll change dietary choices. How, if only you could get a better paying job, how you'd be able to eat more ethically sourced food. But that today, since your life is what it is, you just got to lean on the McDonald's dollar menu. You know what I mean? So like if I were to list all the ways I survive on convenience in my 3-bedroom suburban ranch home, hooked up to utilities and not on a decent public transportation line, I would have a long list of ways that I personally suck. So it's a really interesting ways about all the ways that we're sort of like enmeshed in the traps of society that he refers to in the line. But it whenever you start making that inventory of your own shortcomings, it's pretty hefty and overwhelming.
It's the weight of it alone is overwhelming. Like we all, at the end of the day, like I like to try and think that I do my best, being between my dietary choices and the products that I bring into the house and stuff like that. I'm very fortunate in that my partner is uber into being conscious and thinking about everything we do, so I have a little help in that aspect, because I'm extremely lazy with stuff. And I know that. But, and I'm not to get all preachy or anything, but when it comes back to like the dietary choices thing, I'm like, man, it's super easy to do what I do. And it's super cheap. Like lentils are super cheap.
Yeah. Yeah. It reminds me of Chris saying how much he likes the big sloppy lentil burgers from back in the day on his Patreon podcast, where he was talking about like, would I eat like the factory grown or the lab grown meats? I remember this Q&A he did on his Patreon where he was talking about that. He's like, I don't know. I like the big old sloppy old school lentil patties.
So this little slight tangent here, if you'll permit.
Sure, go for it.
This I want to say 2017. So I used to play. I used to like tour and play like professional disc golf events. And in 2017, I went and played Canadian Nationals in Prince Edward Island. So Prince Edward Island is very much like seafood place. And
Yeah.
I show up to this event as the only vegan person there in the, 300, 400 person national field. We're renting a house on the water. The first thing we do when we get there, the guys I'm with, they go to a dock, they shoot this guy $80 and he gives them a garbage bag full of lobsters.
What?
And we go back to the house, and it's late at night. There's only one grocery store open. I buy a whole bunch of cans of lentils, and I eat nothing but lentil sloppy joe sandwiches for 7 days in Prince Edward Island.
Gotta love it. PEI.
So I can absolutely relate to what Chris is saying, because I've literally lived that life.
You did it. Funny story about PEI. I met this guy when I lived in England 10 years ago who, whenever I introduced myself to him and I said, "Oh, hey, I'm Greg. Where are you from?" And he's like, "Oh, hey, I'm so-and-so. I'm from PEI." And I said, "Where? What's PEI?" I didn't know the abbreviation. And he goes, "Prince Edward Island," like it was some massive offense and egregious flaw that I did not know the abbreviation when he didn't just say, "I'm from Prince Edward Island" the first time. So that's
hilarious.
That's a little horror flashback for me right there about Prince Edward Island.
That's where all our potatoes come from.
Amazing. Nice. Gotta love it. I love a good potato. Okay. So we've got this next line. As time passed by, I realized we don't need rules or rule to survive, just common sense and means to subsist. From here on in, I will resist. Quasi-duetted line again. Jordan, Chris in there. I don't know why I'm saying quasi. It's just like kind of a duet. I love it. And this is the moment of deciding that sticking to the script of how life is packaged and fed to us, about how things are supposed to be, isn't something that everyone has to do. So this is kind of like that teenage revelation of I've been lied to forever and I'm going to forge my own path. And so, but we all know that the vast majority of us do stick to the rules, given by society. We follow like the track that gets, for many of us, gets like laid out for us, like from a very young age when we're in school, like growing up. My entire family said, "Oh, Greg, you're going to be a great teacher someday," because I knew all the state capitals of US states when I was like 5 years old. So everybody's like, "You're going to be a great history teacher." So I was 5, right? And when I'm like 22, what am I doing? I'm graduating from college with a degree in education. So it's like my life got like laid out for me as a path when I was a kid. And everybody just told me my whole life kind of what I was going to be good at. And then that's exactly the path that my life followed. And I can't really imagine what I could have done or would have done if I had just been kind of like allowed to find passions. You know what I mean? Instead of being told this is what you're going to do and what you're going to be good at, and then actually doing that. If I would have like forged a different way that was the antithesis or different from what everybody else told me I was going to be good at. So it's a very weird mental headspace that I get in when I think about these questions about the rules to survive. So like many of us like peel our eyes open each day and go to work, come home, eat, watch TV, go to bed, and that's all that really happens. And but if you make life so financially difficult that choosing to go beyond the survival rules just isn't in the cards for a huge amount of us. You know what I mean?
I can't imagine someone telling little Greg, "Hey, Greg, you're going to be really good at hosting a podcast with hundreds of episodes about propaganda."
Hundreds. It's great. I mean, that would have been amazing if they would have been like, "Oh," because maybe broadcasting and journalism could have been an actual path for me, but I was just told forever, this is what you're good at. This is what you're going to become. So I just followed that like blindly. Like I feel almost like idiotic in a way for how closely I clung to the narrative that was fed to me by, my family. And they were doing it out of a place of love. They were just trying to get me into a career path that like I feel like they felt like I would thrive in. But I really followed that path like absolutely to the letter, and I never even thought about wavering from it, which is really weird to think back on.
It's scary to think about that kind of thing. And when I'm listening to this line, I think about, the current state of the world, everything happening. I'm like, stuff's falling apart. It's exhausting to live these days. The financial burden of living is so steep that it's near impossible to even do anything outside of a working robot life.
Mhm.
Like, I could be doing many other things with my free time, but season 8 of 24 is not going to watch itself. Like, we're all jobbers, and the system is the main eventers in the wrestling match of life. They're calling the shots, and we're here to make them look good.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And it's exhausting to go beyond what is expected of us, and it's by design, man. Like, it is so by design that our society beats so many people down to the point of where they couldn't even, people like around the world are like, why aren't Americans like protesting this and that? And I'm just like, it's because everybody is completely exhausted by the grind of just being alive. And so, I see exactly why people don't do things like protests for a better society.
Oh yeah, like what is it? They can take off work and then not have anywhere to live and then not be able to eat. It's the amount of society that, with losing their job today, wouldn't have a place to live, in the very near future after that is staggering.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Like the extremely tenuous financial reality of my life. Like, I have this house and I love living here, but it's also like, if one or two bad things happened, I don't live here anymore. Like, everybody is like within, days of having their lives completely turned upside down in so many ways.
Yeah, I'm about like 2 bad things into this. I need a break from the bad things going on with the house.
Yeah, for sure. So, we've got this next line. I finally realized I found my way at last. It's finally evident we all need a kick in the ass. And this is where they go, ass, and they like just hold it. And it's a gorgeous delivery of the word ass here. Just absolutely angelic choir delivery of ass.
Let's do it again from the ass.
Have you ever heard a more gorgeously sung ass in any song?
I had this conversation with Zoe the other day.
Oh, do tell.
So I actually asked her that question. And the answer is no. This is the one.
This is the all-time greatest delivery of the sung word ass. This is number one of all time in the history of music. This is the one.
Without a doubt.
I feel like we've really uncovered something magical here, because there is not a more perfectly sung ass in the history of music. I defy somebody to prove us wrong.
Yeah. Send us a link, whatever. I can tell you right now, not going to be as good.
It's not going to be as good. This is perfect. So, there was an interview with Fat Mike a long time ago where he says that every note, every chord of this record is, in his view, perfect. This is one of the most perfect moments on the entire record. The sung ass from Hate Myth Muscle Etiquette. Absolutely stunning work. But seriously, this line is really hopeful. It's young, it's idealistic, it's enthusiastic, it's energetic. It like asks us to reconsider things. It's a very teenage mindset of discovering, like having a massive epiphany and being like, I'm going to go this way in my life and people can come with me or not, but I'm going. Like, it's got that youthful energy that that made me fall in love with punk rock in the first place. You know what I mean? But it encourages us to lift up our friends, lift up our family, lift each other up to achieve great things beyond the packaged nature of society. And even though we all still live in such a packaged version of society that is essentially sold to us because it's really hard to exist beyond that, seek little teeny tiny moments where you can bust out of that packaged nature to, kind of realize that there is something possible beyond it. And that even though we live within these like confines of society, we can once in a while get out of that. And so that's what I really love about this line is the hopeful nature of it.
I think it's love the line. One person actually we mentioned him earlier in the episode who I'd love to talk to about this specifically is Jesse Barnett, because I don't know if you're familiar what he does in his extracurriculars, but so he runs like a nonprofit in LA, a bookstore that has a free clinic. It's like does some awesome stuff, but it's the definition of like our collective responsibility to organize and help those who need it, because the system is set up to prevent those people from succeeding. And like he's a good example of someone who's using and the collective organization to help those who need it.
I love it. Well, so hi, Jesse, if you hear this, we want to talk to you. So definitely let us know if you're down. So this last line, I just love the way this line is delivered. The basis of change, I almost am tempted to break into the basis of change, educate, derive, discussion. I just love the way it's delivered in general. It's fast and he crams in a lot of words on the end here. I love how densely sung this section is and how the rest of the song doesn't feel as lyrically dense as this. So it's really effective because the rest of the song, it's not sung quickly. And then he really crams this big section in here at the end. The basis of change, educate, derive from discussion, not hate, not myth, not muscle, not etiquette. Intellect, not re-elect, status symbols, yield to respect between sex, species, environment. Amazing. This is like the mission statement to lead into Less Talk More Rock. This line right here, talking about sex, species, environment, intellect. This is Less Talk More Rock's preview mission statement to me.
It's almost like they planned it.
And they didn't. They didn't, because they always talk about how they had no idea what they were doing. But it's so perfect to lead into Less Talk More Rock.
In retrospect, like, yeah, we didn't know what we were doing, but obviously, like, subconsciously at the time, like, you have your certain train of thought, right? Like, you're doing this, logically, that's the next step after this, there had to be some planning.
Yeah. Because think about how much more lyrically specific Less Talk More Rock is compared to How to Clean Everything. The lyrics are so much more specific on the next record compared to this record. And I feel like the sex, species, environment thing is like the preview of the mission statement and kind of related to the words that line the front cover of Less Talk More Rock itself. But we got these 4 terms, right? I love these 4 terms. And I wanted to break these down a little bit. So we have hate, right? Hate. I love I want to shout out the line puny human hatreds from Unscripted Moment, right? We've got hatred there. There's so much hatred, so much othering, so much them and us. This is like the theme of our society currently in so many ways, right? You could just be like, what's society like today? I don't know, a lot of hatred. And where does the hatred lie? Largely on the internet, in front of our faces when we're scrolling and wasting our waking moments of our lives, and to where we then are convinced that there's far more hatred going on than there actually is. So it's like this like delusional world that we've created for ourselves on the internet, where we think that like the world is just like completely full of hate because it's all we see on the internet. So I love this like reference to hate. What do you think about this?
I think you nailed that spot on.
Oh, thank you.
If you like literally you spend 15 minutes on the internet, you think everyone's about to kill each other.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It doesn't matter what topic you're even looking about. People want to kill each other, whether you're like reading wrestling threads on Twitter or Reddit, or you're like on a hardcore board. Everyone wants to kill each other.
Yeah. And it reminds me of This Is Your Life, too, that line that Todd has where it's like, go out into the world. You'll see you'll probably survive. Right. So like if you go out into the world and look around, be like, where's all this hatred? Show it to me. So obviously there is tons. It's just that, when you find like things like mass shooting epidemics and like shooting up of schools and things like that, obviously there's tons of hatred, but you can find the examples and you can find the stuff that reinforces your view. So if you're convinced that the world is far more full of hatred than not, you're going to find examples that reinforce that. And that is what spending your entire life on the internet does to the human mind. Does that make sense?
You walk out the door here and you see bozos in their pickup trucks with hockey sticks and Canadian flags on them. I can already tell dudes love to hate.
Yeah. So you get this next line, myth. So I spend a lot of time talking about religion and thinking about religion on my other podcast. And so this line can be religious myths. It can be myths in history. Learning the history of colonization in schools shows, kids a certain myth about the way society came to be. But for me, I read this like as religion being like a hugely guiding principle of our societies. And whenever people think about the US, I often wonder if they think that we're super ultra religious countries around the world because so much of our legislation is, religiously geared, it seems like, with the rolling back of like reproductive rights, the fact that the Bible is the number one cited book on the floor of the US Senate and Congress by, elected members of government who cite the Bible a lot when they give speeches on the floor of the Senate and House of Representatives. But what I see is also the fact that there is a huge religion death rattle loudly clanging in our society. So I was looking this up. I found the Pew Research's Global Research Futures, Pew Research's Global Religious Futures research that they do. And they said, quote, the U.S. public seems to be growing less religious, at least by conventional measures. The percentage of American adults who identify as Christian has been declining each year, while the share who do not identify with any religion has been rising rapidly. So that is an interesting piece of data to me. So despite our reputation around the world as this hugely religious country, the stats continue to show otherwise, that we are rapidly declining in our religiosity, which is likely why there is such a huge push for religiously motivated legislation through Congress and the courts in the last 10 years. So, 3 out of 10 Americans right now survey as no religion whatsoever. And in the last, since 2007, the amount of U.S. adults who report being Christian fell from 78% in 2007 to 63% in 2022. So there is a rapidly decreasing reliance on religiosity, religious identification, and things like that I feel like this song is sort of referring to whenever it talks about things like myth.
That's an interesting stat. I actually didn't know that. Maybe the next step is finally getting the prayer out of NASCAR.
Yeah, we'll see.
They just got rid of the Confederate flag. Maybe next step is the pre-race prayer.
Yeah, and whenever long-held norms are challenged, obviously, like as I mentioned, that death rattle, people fear change. And they see things as somebody's coming for their long, deeply held traditions. And then what happens is they retaliate and lash out twice as hard. And you see that in the 2016 election results and things like that in the US of lashing out twice as hard and overcorrecting. So that's just kind of something that I see a lot in the US is I see a lot of overcorrecting. I see a lot of lashing back twice as hard by a smaller fraction of people. And that's just kind of what I'm thinking about whenever I think about the line of relation to myth,
I think in terms of lashing back, I think Florida is in a permanent state of lashing back.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. And it's pretty scary because there's a massive possibility that the governor of Florida is going to win the next presidential election. So his entire agenda is to make the U.S. Florida. So there's a lot of possible, retaliation and lashing back, really staring us in the face in the very, very near future for the country. So hooray for that. I am absolutely not looking forward to that whatsoever next year. It's going to be a terrible time. So
I live pretty close, so.
You do. You're like 20 minutes from me. We're going to do the next episode in person. I feel like I should just come over to your house and we should just record this in person.
Absolutely good.
Yeah, we will. So we got the next one, muscle. I interpret this as strength in whatever version that people think about that. So there can be numerous ways to interpret it. First, you have to think about, do you see this as physical strength, physical muscle? Do you see it as mental strength? Chris probably doesn't mean it as intellectual strength, is my interpretation. But it reminds me of when we talked about who will help me bake this bread. You can beat this shell about me, but you can't touch what's inside. It reminds me so much of the stories Chris has told from the early days where he was saying stuff on stage that was very provocative, very confrontational. And I always say this, but everybody who listens to this podcast should go listen to the 1995 Gilman Street set recorded by Propaganda and just listen to that. It's the best half an hour of live music you could ever hear in your entire life, because it is 60% band yelling at crowd and crowd yelling back at band, and then like 6 or 7 songs. It's hilarious. But he was saying things that was essentially earning him a target on his back in Winnipeg in the late 80s, early 90s. And he was very much on the receiving end of the muscular way of life. And that's kind of what I feel like this line is referring to with muscle.
Do you think that's why the bicep era came to be?
Dude, maybe. The Hannah bicep era? Dude, Chris is so funny because he talks about how lazy he is on his podcast all the time. And you go and you look at the Chris Hannah bicep era, and that dude was absolutely jacked. And I'm like, you don't just look like that. You got to be joking me.
Well, and if we're preceding it by having a target on your back and people kind of like being roughing you up, the next logical step is to enter your own personal bicep era.
Dude, get ripped and be like, we're going to have like cage match era Chris Hannah with these biceps. It's amazing. Okay. So we've got etiquette. And when I hear phrases like Southern hospitality, you know what I mean? We were talking about Florida earlier. I also think back on the legacy of slavery and freedom. So, or there's this whole, that's nice, dear, of smiling to someone's face and then ripping them behind their backs. Like, what is the use of being kind and smiling passive aggressively and then presenting yourself as nice when you're really not? So much of etiquette is like, we accept everyone, but critique imperfections. You know what I mean? It's like, it's such a slap in the face. So much of like etiquette leads to these like backhanded insults. So a lot of etiquette is really quite cruel when you peel back the outer layer and veneer of the way that etiquette is presented, you know?
It's funny that you went in the direction of, Southern hospitality with etiquette. All I can think about is corporate etiquette. Maybe it's because I work in that world, but it's basically the same thing, saying nice to someone's face and then, sending an email, trashing them behind their back or whatever. Like, this stuff happens everywhere. And everyone's like, oh, we've got great culture. It's like, you got great culture, but everyone hates each other that works there.
Yeah. Oh, and then we have the best lyric of the entire song. Yep. Amazing. Truly amazing. I love the yep so much. Thoughts on that?
I mean, how else are you going to end that?
Yep. It's amazing. So I went on YouTube. I found some comments on this song. A few of them are, what a great song. Probably the best song to describe the epiphany of someone who finally rejects what they are told and makes their own sense of what they see. the best song on the album. So I found somebody who agrees with you, Steve, that this is the best song on How to Clean Everything. Another one said, 15 years after hearing this song for the first time, I'm thankful for these guys for that kick in the ass we all needed. This song still gets me going. Cheers. And then somebody else wrote 235. Yup, agreed. So that was a really, really fun one there.
I mean, I don't disagree with any of those comments. I think they're spot on.
Yeah, I did find somebody playing a cover.
Faces change, educated right from discussion. Not hate, not myth, not muscle, not etiquette. Intellect, not reelect. Status symbols yield to risk.
I'll put a link to that in the show notes for that full entire cover if anybody wants to go and find it and scope it out. But, this song does not appear live very often, and which is really, I bet, annoying to a lot of people who this is their favorite song from How to Clean Everything.
No comment.
Yeah, I'm sure it's maybe in a lot of set lists that aren't published online from years and years ago, but I scoured YouTube, and when this song is played live, it's played as part of a medley. So they seem to be doing it a lot around 1996, weaving it in as something called the This Might Be Satire medley, which also includes parts of This Might Be Satire, Hate Myth Muscle Etiquette, and Fuck Machine. So they turned it into a medley instead of playing the entire song live. And I can find it played live in Kansas City in May of 96. It looks like they played it in Houston, Texas in 97. And December of 96 in Ontario. So it seems the song was played in some versions in 96 and 97 mostly, but that's only because I can't find set lists from the early 90s very accurately or very easily. And I have no way of verifying how accurate this is, but a website called guestspectacular.com says Hate Myth Muscle Etiquette by Propaganda was played in 1 out of 281 shows documented on the site, with a probability of a 0.36% chance to listen to it live. So this is not an active song in the set list since the 90s, as far as I can tell.
I had no idea that website existed until you mentioned it right now, but I have no reason to not trust it.
I mean, if anybody can go to it, it's really cool because you can type any set list from any band and it'll show you exactly what percentage of shows they have played it as far as the documented set lists that are available online go. So I thought that was pretty cool. But let's hear this medley. Oh, go ahead.
So just a little set list tangent here.
Yeah.
So I've seen Iron Maiden a bunch, right? If you can imagine Iron Maiden, what song do they play at every show?
Number of the Beast.
Number of the Beast. Number one. They play it every show. So in 2000, I want to say 3 or 4, I went to New York City to see them play. They did 4 shows at Hammerstein Ballroom because Elton John was at MSG. So they booked Hammerstein Ballroom, which for them, very small venue. So I saw one of the Iron Maiden shows where they did not play Number of the Beast.
Wow.
It's because people dumped water from the balcony onto the soundboard and the show had to be stopped.
Oh my God.
And they actually commented on stage that this is the only show where we haven't played Number of the Beast.
Ever? Like since the song was released?
Maybe, I don't know if it was on the current tour or whatever, but they made a point of commenting about how they weren't going to get to play the song.
Truly amazing. Well, let's hear this medley a little bit. So this is from the Moon Room in Oshawa, Ontario, December 16th, 1996. This is the medley of This Might Be Satire, Fuck Machine, Hate Myth, Muscle Etiquette. So let's hear it real quick.
Thanks. Just got one more, and it's a homoerotic love song about Noam Chomsky.
hold my hand. I won't show my hand. Oh my, if he tells me that he loves me now, I'm gonna tell him I love him. If he tells me that he loves me now, I'm gonna try and fuck him. By the way, the hell is my priority? Left in my hands of the authority. Finally realized, found my way at last. Finally evident, we all need our king in the yard. Hey, hey. Life makes a change, educate to love from discussion. Not hate, not myth, not muscle, not etiquette. Intellect, not real life, status simple skills. Between sex, fire.
Thanks. That's it. Thanks for coming out. Appreciate it. Check out some books in the back.
All right. So, Steve, to bring us in for a landing here, when I think about this kind of song, I can't help but think of epiphany moments during adolescence and young adulthood, such as going to another country for the first time, being exposed to certain books or documentaries about competing histories and stories of civilization, realizing and coming to comprehend my own bubble, and then realizing so many of us have these moments of deconstructing a myth, noticing hate, realizing that strength isn't what we were always told it was, realizing certain forms of etiquette often mask bigotries. And so that's kind of like what I'm thinking about, and what this song is asking me to consider as I go through my life.
Yeah, I agree. It's to me, it's all about that, like we said, the self-realization and the learnings and the breaking out of the mold that we've been told to have.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like not all of us want to be jobbers.
Mm-hmm.
Some of us want to be main eventers or even mid-carders.
Yeah.
But the realistic, way of society is that most of us are going to be jobbers.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. Well, Steve, I gave Who Will Help Me Bake This Bread a 2.5 on the last episode that we did, and I like this one more, perhaps maybe quite a bit more now that I'm realizing it. And so I'm going to give this one a 3.5 out of 5 as far as the entire discography of Propaganda goes.
I cannot remember what I rated Bread.
It doesn't matter.
But I'm giving this song a 4 in relation to the entire discography. Why? This song gives me the feels.
Dude, that is a great reason to give it a 4. I love it. Well, Steve, I have absolutely loved doing Hate Myth Muscle Etiquette with you. This has been a blast. And Matt Fox from Shai Hulud was here, which is super wow. Very exciting for that to have Matt on the show. So thanks again to Matt. You can find us on Instagram and Twitter at PropagandyPod. You can email us at propagandapod@gmail.com. And I mean, Steve, what a great time. I'm so glad that we got to do this and hang out because this really made my day.
Yeah, this is a blast, and I'm sorry it took so long to be able to record this episode. I had to cancel multiple times, but we finally did it.
Mark my points of failing. Get where I gave in. Cut the convenience placating. To suck me in to their trap. I need a good kick in the ass. Try pass by, realize. Don't need rules to survive. Common sense moves to subsist from here on in. I will resist. Finally realize. Found my way at last. Finally evident. We all need a kick in the Race of change, educate, derived from discussion, not hate, not myth, not muscle, not etiquette.